Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Johan, and I'm the host of this channel, Hardcore Spirituality. How is your heart today? Is your heart kind? How is your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? The title of this video is The Old Paradigms Are Collapsing. Let's talk about it. A paradigm is a system, a way of thinking, a way of doing things. I discussed on this channel, especially last year when I was able to make videos down at the Sacred Grove when the weather was nice. I've discussed the various paradigms, not just over the decades or hundreds of years, but thousands of years and 10,000s of years. Those systems, the way of doing things, collapsed. And what caused this? Well, a variety of things. We talked about in those old videos, human beings. We're Homo sapiens, known as modern man. Before us was Neanderthal, and before them Cro-Magnon, and the list goes on. And with each species of human beings came changes. One of the, if you could call it, motivators of change from our ancient ancestors had to do with weather. Because of weather patterns, the earth has cycles. These cycles are, in various ways, every 5,000 years, every 10,000 years, every 25,000 years, the weather changes, the weather patterns change. And our ancient ancestors' lives were affected by changing weather patterns, especially mini ice ages. So the areas they lived in, because of extreme frigid cold temperatures, they had to move. I mentioned before in videos that the primary function of our ancestors was to eat food, to continue to live and reproduce. So when these rapid, disastrous weather patterns changed to ice ages and frigid weather, they had to move. They had to go somewhere else where they could live. At a point, those human beings went from hunter-gatherers to farmers. Agriculture. You could call it the agriculture age, the farming age. This changed how that society functioned, or those societies, those clans, those tribes, and those villages. The paradigm shifted for them. The systems that were in place changed with farming. The way they thought about things changed. How they lived changed. I've discussed in those videos ages like the Iron Age, the Copper Age, the Bronze Age. Those were paradigm shifts, systems that were in place. The old systems started to collapse. And the new system, the new way of doing things, took over. In our times, we had the industrial age. After the industrial age came the technological age, which we live in now. But that system, that paradigm, in a way, its basic texts are still in place, but there's a change coming as it applies to the people that exist today. Ancient philosophers and like Aristotle and so forth said everything in moderation, even moderation. But we exist in times where there is less moderation than there ever was. It's more about excess, living beyond our means, ignoring boundaries, eat, drink, and be merry. These excesses. That system is collapsing. And the new system is about efficiency, being efficient, living within your means. And it's nothing new. As I mentioned, the ancient philosophers knew this. They wrote it down. Everything in moderation, even moderation. Part of the system that's in place now, the system of excesses, the it's all about me system, the there are no boundaries system is a result of our leaders and rules and regulations and methods they put in place. You could say to further their career, to get votes. We exist in a time where really you don't think about boundaries. We exist in a time where really you don't think about being efficient. We exist in a time where it's not what's in our heart that matters. It's what we own. Material things. That's how people express themselves today. They identify with materialism, material things. It's nothing new. This isn't a new idea to be aware of this. The ancient philosophers warned us. Everything in moderation, even moderation. But people are so used to no boundaries, living in excess, and tramping on other people's right to live. It's turned into chaos. And when I say right to live, I'm talking about living within your means. Living within your means. The eat, drink, and marry days are coming to an end. That system is collapsing. In a way, it's not anything new. We are returning to values of antiquity. Where people of that time were intelligent enough to know there are boundaries, and boundaries are important. When I say boundaries, I'm not talking about the fence around your yard. I'm not talking about a wall that separates countries. When I talk about boundaries, I'm talking about disciplined human beings living in a simple way, living with boundaries, knowing your own boundaries. Understanding that the gathering of all these material things that we identify with, it doesn't make you more efficient. As a matter of fact, there's an old saying, the more things you have, the more problems you have. But yet people continue to get more things. And a lot of it has to do with technology. What's that thing, Alexa? Now you could get this device that you just talk to it and it does things, plays music, turns your lights on. Yeah, it's nice. But do you really need it? Do you need another thing? And why can't you just do it yourself? I was thinking about making this video and I thought, the old paradigm collapsing and a new paradigm, a new system, a new way of thinking. The new system is in place. I remember when people listen to music on a record player with a record. And then 8-track tapes came out. And then cassette tapes came out. And then CDs came out. CD discs, compact discs. Now, there is a difference listening to music from a record player as opposed to a compact disc. Actually, they're all irrelevant now because I could just turn on my phone and go to a playlist somewhere on various channels that have them. But the people that like records resisted that change. I could see their point. But now you could go anywhere and have music. Back then, excuse me, in the 60s, you had a record player at home, you had a radio at home, you had a radio in your car. Your other source of music was to go to concerts. Well, in between, there was silence. until the next event, or until you went in your car and turned the radio on, or you had the time to sit and listen to a record. Now there's music available all the time. The old paradigm is collapsing, folks. Excess and greed, especially excess. And I mentioned this in videos before. Excess. Do you really need all those things that you have? I'm happy with a cup of instant coffee. I drink instant because there's less caffeine in it. I've tasted all these gourmet coffees, yeah, with additives to make it taste like this or that. At what, $7, $8, $9 a cup? I guess if you could afford it, so what? That's just one example of how we've been lured into a way of living, into a system where we live beyond our means. Part of capitalism. It just goes way beyond how we were designed to live. I mentioned our ancient ancestors hunted to have food so they could live, be alive, and then they reproduced. The days of waste are over. Coming back is the mindset of those ancient philosophers that said everything in moderation, even moderation, and people are resisting it. I want to do what I want to do.